But let's now transition over to Sergino Dest, because it's been announced that Xavi, the manager of Barcelona, has reportedly given the green light for Sergino Dest to exit from Barcelona. Xavi feels that with the arrival of Cesar Azpilicueta from Chelsea, together with the one-year renewals of Sergio Roberto and Dani Alves, that would fully cover the right back position. Also, for people to take into consideration, a bunch of those guys are old. Yeah. Not Sergio Roberto's not as old, but I do think that they're trying to move some money in the books, and getting Dest, who I think still has probably a little bit more value than those other guys, could come into the equation. So the big question here is, and I want to get into a debate because I'm very curious as to where you guys think Sergino Dest should go. We obviously know that he's got a lot of growth. He hasn't hit his ceiling either, but what's the best system for him to flourish? Because, and I want to throw this out there, I'm going to use Denzel Dumfries, who went to Inter Milan for only 12.5 million euros, even though he played for the Holland in the Euros in 2020 or 2021, summer 2021. He had 2 goals in 4 games, clearly shown that he could do the business, had over 125 games for PSV in the Eredivisie, but didn't really make that big step to Inter Milan. Beppe Marotta comes in, fantastic in the transfer market, gets him. I think it's a steal. They're going to try to replace Inter Milan with Achraf Hakimi, and I think Dumfries has done a pretty good job. He's not the same as Hakimi, but he's got some qualities that getting Inter close. We're down to the last weekend to see if they can catch Milan at the top. But it was a good signing, and I feel like if Dest could go for that number, where he's in that $12.5 to $15 million range, I think you could see a Bayern Munich take a flyer on him, or you could see a Chelsea take a flyer on him, or a club of that, because he's not that expensive. But if Barcelona's out there asking for 25, 30, I feel like they could get stuck here. So I'm kind of curious. Charlie, I'll come to you first. Sergino Dest, what do you think his best situation is? Yeah, give me your thoughts. I'm very curious.
I think in terms of his defensive responsibilities, that's the concern for a lot of these top clubs. They don't worry about Sergino Dest getting forward and creating chances, in some cases scoring goals. That's not the worry for Sergino Dest as a right back or right wing back. It's defensive. Are you strong enough? You talk about the English Premier League. It's a very physical league with big wingers. If I'm a winger, I'm looking at going at Sergino Dest because he hasn't shown to me yet that he's going to be tough as nail and defend first, because that's his responsibility first. Come transition, you have to defend. You have to be in a good position and make sure that you can support the back line. I feel like it's too inconsistent with Sergino Dest. Given that, I think Atletico Madrid, if he's going to stay in La Liga, might be a good fit because the 3 behind him are very defensive. And I think the starting point is very defensive because of the way that they play. Maybe that could be a good spot for him because counterattack, transition, get forward, use the width.
Wait, who did you say, Charlie? Who did you say?
What club? Atletico Madrid. Because they will, I think, help train him
how to play
mentally about being a defender first and then position tactically, which would ultimately benefit him in the long run. And then if you're looking at Serie A, Juve might be a good spot for him. And it's a spot you can make the move from Barca to Juve. And I think just because Juve dominates typically those games in possession, it might be a great spot for him.
Okay. All right. Now, before we get to Heath's thoughts and my thoughts about this, we had Fabrizio Romano, the transfer guru who works with us here at CBS Sports. He also commented on the Sergino Dest situation. Let's listen to what he had to say right now.
King of Ajax, a former Ajax player, Sergino Dest hasn't been the best situation with him when Xavi has arrived. What's the latest with him?
Yes, he's one of the players to watch this summer because if an important proposal will arrive for Barcelona, could be an opportunity to make money. As we mentioned before, for Frankie de Jong, they need to sell some player. As you mentioned, was not an easy season for him. But at the same point, if they receive an important bid, it could be a possibility for him. So let's see what happens with English clubs, because Bayern have always been interested in him, but they're signing Mazraoui on a free from Ajax, so they don't need a right back anymore. But for English clubs, it could be a chance. So let's see what's next for Sergino Dest, but he could be one of the players on the move at Barcelona.
All right, that's Fabrizio Romano with our Luis Miguel Echegaray. Make sure you go listen to the Que Golazo podcast. Great guests, and Fabrizio at least once a week. I think Heath and I hop on every once in a while as well. Now, Heath, throwing it to you. Sergino Dest, only 21, so obviously he's got a lot of his career ahead of him. What do you think will be the next best step for him? Especially got to take into consideration, he's going to probably feel that it's going to be, despite Barcelona's situation and them working through kind of this transitional period as a club overall, it's still going to feel like a step down if he goes to, let's say, a mid-tier team in one of the other top 5 leagues.
Yeah, it's hard to say what the right, because I agree what the right club is, because I agree with Charlie on the fact that it's defending. And part 2 of that is when you talk about Dumfries, when you talk about Hakimi, there's a verticality to their game that also transitions defensively, right? It's a speed play. They're good without the ball. Sergio Dest is best with the ball. So he needs to be in a system where he's getting the ball at his feet. When I think about that, I think about teams that are more possession-based versus even counter-attacking teams, because if he's going to, I just don't see that discipline of him willing to stay home and then get out on the counter. I see him. He's the kind of guy that if you look in games, he doesn't even want that ball way off into space. He wants it guided to him in front of him, but the ball at his feet where he can have combination play and do things with the ball. And so it limits him. When I think about Italy, I think about Napoli just because of their possession in the final third, things like that, where he can be in higher positions. I worry about Italy in general, just the style of play because of the need to defend. However, if he can commit to that in Italy, you tend to have more players around the ball. The field gets a lot more condensed. The field gets a lot smaller in the Italian game. Your opposite side fullback is pulled all the way over and things like that. So they try to condense the field into like small quadrants where I think it could play to his advantage, where it's not just him isolated like he would be in the Premier League, one-on-one, out of position, out on the wings, isolated, things like that, where I think he could struggle. So I think there are sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add, do you feel like then he should go to a system that already has 3 center backs? Like when you look at Inter Milan, they have their, Bastonis, De Vrij, Skriniar, and then Dumfries and Hakimi were both really out and out wing backs. I mean, they got Perisic playing out wide left for them now, who's more of an attacking player. Do you think he should go to a system that's already set up to play to his strengths? Or do you feel like there's some value for him overall to like, well, maybe I should go to a team that has a back 4 so I can actually get better at defending, because that will probably, give me more longevity to my career?
Yeah, it's tough to say really, just because, you see in a lot of back 5s or back 3s, the wing backs do have to be able to cover a lot of ground, and they have to be solid on some level, at least respect the art of defending. And I think he's not great at that in either system. I think that could be a crutch for his development, as you said. And in a back 4, he's going to have to really be willing to commit to that. I'm not saying he can't do it, because he can, because he's got all of the tools to be a good defender. He's just got to be able to understand that that's first and foremost. And I've seen him for long periods at Barcelona where he can defend and he does stay back. And there was long periods where he wasn't attacking as much at Barcelona when they were trying to just grind out results and get through times where they weren't playing great, but still getting some during this sort of run of form that they had under Xavi. But I think about Spain. I think about maybe a Sevilla. I think about a Villarreal. I think about a big club that's decent in possession.
But you got to look at the players that they have too. You look at Napoli, for instance, and they have Giovanni Di Lorenzo. He's 28, and he's played 33 games. His value is 28 million. He's not going anywhere. I mean, and you got to think about competition. If you're Sergino Dest, you can't go into a team where you're not going to really play. You're not going to be the first option. You look at Juve, Danilo, he's 30. He's, kind of having some injuries. He's already hit his peak. He's coming down. Cuadrado's the other right back. He's 33. DiCiglio, he's 29. So, I look at other teams, and you got to look at the competition, because Sergino Dest needs to play, just like Tyler Adams, just like all these other guys. You want him in a position where he's going to play. And if that means coming down off the pedestal of being like a top-tier Champions League club, then so be it, especially heading into a World Cup year.
What I wanted to add was, I think there's some value to potentially leaving a big club and joining a club that has a little bit of hype around it. I'll use a couple examples. One, Renato Sanchez, right? He goes from Benfica, helps Portugal win the Euros, immediately goes to Bayern Munich. Not a great fit. Doesn't really, really showcase what he's about. And there could be a whole number of reasons why that didn't work out. He goes to Lille, helps Lille win Liga, kind of against the odds in a league that PSG should always win, undoubtedly, every single season, given the money that they pump in. And then I look at Serge Gnabry, right? He goes to Arsenal at age 16, can't really get into the first team for reasons that just they got a lot of talent. Then he goes to West Brom.
I want that one back, Jimmy.
You want Serge Gnabry? Oh, of course you want him back, right? Because he proved what he was capable of. But he went on loan to West Brom, and Tony Pulis said he's not good enough to play at this level. The players that Serge Gnabry was playing behind is disgusting. So then he goes to Werder Bremen. He goes back to Germany. He grew up in the Stuttgart Youth Academy. And he goes to Werder Bremen, 11 goals in 27 games. And then Bayern Munich gets a clause, gets him for like $8 million, something crazy. And then he goes on loan to Hoffenheim.
It's called the Bayern clause.
Bayern clause, yeah, of course, Bayern clause. And then he gets into the team, and now he's guy's unbelievable. He's got 20 goals in 31 games for German national team. He is such an important player for their attack Bayern. I mean, he's a Champions League winner. And West Brom didn't want this guy. It just makes it so insane. So it's not the end of the world for Sergino Dest. But I thought, okay, let's think about the Bundesliga. Serge Gnabry's using that. Jude Bellingham's doing well. Jadon Sancho used that as a platform. Gio Reyna, Christian Pulisic, Erling Haaland. Like, there's a lot of big names that can take that. And when I look at Borussia Dortmund in particular, they have a guy there, Thomas Meunier, who I don't really rate. And I think that they could benefit from having a Sergino Dest. He could be part of maybe a revolution of getting Dortmund to compete with Bayern.
But is Dortmund going to spend 20+ million on a right back?
If they think they can sell him on for 40, then potentially. I would say that Bayer Leverkusen is another like hipster team. They finished third in the Bundesliga, have a ton of talent, and they've got players there that they've got Frimpong, who's okay at the right back position, but I think Dest is better. If they're both playing at their peak, I think Dest is better. And you got RB Leipzig. You got Angelino on one side that play in the 3-back system who bombs forward. You could have a little bit more balance of having Angelino and a Dest on either side. But Michele over there is pretty sick. I actually like him. So I would say Borussia Dortmund or Bayer Leverkusen could be really cool 2 spots where now you're starting to still going to play in the Champions League. And now you're punching up, whereas Barcelona has a different set of expectations. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And if you guys wanted any quick comments on that before we go to our break, but I don't know. There's something to be said for even a Sevilla, like Jesus Navas. I mean, they whip the ball in like anybody, and that can help.
There's a lot. I just think that Sergino Dest is one where I don't care. In most cases, if the system fits Sergino Dest, he's going to win out in a competition for a spot. If it's not a system that fits, then he's not going to win out. And now, having said that, Barcelona should have worked out for him. But Barcelona that's a super club. It's a different level of expectation. But I do think that anyone that's going to fit his style of play, there's very few, I think, attacking fullbacks better than Sergino Dest is on the ball. It's just, again, that willingness to defend. I think he's going to win out in those situations. So I like the idea of putting him in a place where he's got to compete in a big club as opposed to, when we say step back, I mean, what are we talking about? Mid-table? Or are we talking about,
are we talking like Brighton in the Premier League? If they sell Lamptey, they'll have that right back position open.
That's a good shout.
Where they play a good style of football. And if you think about the mid-tier level, he's going to play every game. Right. Is that something that would be beneficial for him under Graham Potter, who likes to play attacking style? Well,
you got Cucurella on the other side, and Cucurella clearly likes to get forward. I don't know. Brighton's actually not a bad shout, Charlie. You're chiming in with that one. You're getting 4, 5, 6, 7 really good opponents that you're playing. The other ones are always like, scrapping it out and fighting, but to be able to play against the Liverpools and the Man Cities and Chelseas, I think will only help him get better, but that's assuming, he goes out there and does the job.